Hello, founders. Today we are going to ask and discuss the question, should you hire a dev shop? This is the question. You are a founder and you are trying to get your MVP up and going, build some software, all that stuff. Question becomes, should you hire a dev shop? And I have here with me today Moon Yiu. She is the founder and CEO of Digisense, of a dev shop. But we're going to be talking about it from the standpoint of digital product design and development, which is what Moon does. And let me start off by saying that I myself am not a technical founder. So I always use dev shops or hire staff or programmers and different things. And sometimes it's more advantageous to hire a dev shop, and sometimes it's more advantageous to hire staff in-house. It depends on your situation. I can also say that I've had wonderful experiences with dev shops. I've also had horrible experiences. I can also say that I know founders that have had wonderful experiences with dev shops, and I've also had founders that they've lost their shirt. They YOLO $150,000 of their retirement money, and they've got maybe a dev shop that just runs away with the money, holds them hostage, different things like that, or they end up with an app or some type of software that nobody cares about whatsoever. We're going to be discussing this, and I'm going to be taking Moon to task about what she says and her experiences, and we're going to have I think, a lively conversation. Moon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ed.
Okay, so give me the quick elevator pitch, and I'll let you pitch. What is DigitSense? And then we're going to get into some of your collateral, and we're going to go back and forth.
Sure. In short, DigitSense is a product design and development studio. So obviously, product means like digital product, anything from web app to mobile app. We mainly focus on more consumer web app and mobile apps, i.e., something that is more UI UX heavy, and also something that is a little bit more traffic oriented. So I would say the most of our customers actually would come to us with the pain point of hiring a dev shop or hiring some software developers in-house, freelancers whatsoever, and come back to us and be like, hold up, we can't drive any traffic. We can't even get beta users. And we have trouble, actually acquiring people to use our thing. So we basically spent all the money building something that no one uses. So this is where we come in, do due diligence, do auditing and all for your product, and make sure that you're at least on the right track. So I would always say, right, for a product that you build, it doesn't matter, how much money you put up front. It's you need to get the software architecture, you need to get the planning done correctly. There are always, pivoting that you need to do, but it doesn't mean that you need to start off in a scrappy way because fixing it might cost even more money. So that's what we do now.
Now you are located where?
I actually fly between Hong Kong and London, and my clients are all over the world. Actually, most of them are from the States. The biggest clients would be in New York and LA currently, and then Singapore would be another tech hub in Asia as well. And we service some European clients too.
Okay. And as we've been getting to know each other, what's fascinating is this isn't your actual first career. You've kind of come a circuitous way into this. Where are you from and how did you end up here?
Cool. So funny enough, I was educated as a biochemist. So genetics was my, major back then. I was the one who was doing all the PCR tests for your COVIDs, supposedly, if I actually went down that career path. But then I actually went into the tech companies and the tech industry ever since I started my career. I was more of a salesperson. I was never a software engineer. So I actually come from a very different point of perspective. So I would say most dev shops out there, software companies whatsoever, most people or most founders are very technical people. So they would definitely come up with something awesome, amazing. But this is one of the reasons why we focus mainly on user experience and something that is a little bit more commercial, because I come from a commercial background and I totally understand the problem with back then when I was a scientist. people understanding us in layman terms. Like we can't really translate things. So I think for digital products or tech products, it's the same thing. It can be as fascinating as possible. It can be as sophisticated as possible. But if no one uses it, you're not getting revenue. This is the end of your career pretty much.
Sure,
So
sure. But why? Like, going from biochemical engineering, genetics, and, which sounds really cool, and you're obviously super smart, to jump into developing digital products. Like, was it an itch you had to scratch, a problem you wanted to solve for yourself? Like, what was the moment where you said, I'm going to actually turn this into a company, which is not an easy thing to do?
yeah, absolutely. I guess it was because of my previous experience in tech firms. So I worked for SaaS companies, I worked for marketing apps, I worked for VR, AR product studios, digital studios, i.e. My role back then, because I worked in very early stage companies, so I have to do the sales part and then the project management part and then the execution whatsoever, apart from the actual creation, game development or whatever you call it. That's all I need to take care of from top to bottom. So I have had a lot of experience dealing with marketers back then because our end clients were mainly marketing agencies like Gray, Ogilvy, and all the biggest names that you know of. And end up, I need to work with a bunch of developers to develop something for marketers. And most of the time, it's just a disaster. And most of the time, it's just we kept chasing something, and the developers are like, "Oh, but it's not done." But all they need is probably just a prototype. So there is just a mismatch in understanding, in positioning, in the languages even. So this is where I come in pretty much as a mediator between the two parties. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so for the founders that are listening, let's put us in the right ballpark here. When we're talking to you, what is the general size of project that you normally work with, and is the ideal? Give me a number, because I know it's not going to be $5,000. Is it millions of dollars, or what type of founder do we need to be talking to right now?
So I would say we take deals from 10,000 to 50,000 US dollars, pretty much
Okay.
on average. But we're talking about the duration, and there is a certain way that we work on our projects as well. We never recommend founders or early stage companies spending more than 3 months building a minimal viable product. It can be, a waste of money at the end of the day. I would always say use 3 months, 2 to 3 months as a benchmark. Anything above that, you need to sacrifice, or you need to understand, whether or not you should invest in that, or maybe that's not that important. So I would say at least that way you can control your cost. So I would say if it's 3 months, then it's usually up the upper tier, like pretty much 50,000 to begin with. But then obviously the iterations and after that would be another number.
Okay, now let me step back for a moment.
Sure.
Founders, all of you founders listening to this, by the time you get to Moon, you should already have a strong sense of idea validation. Never, I repeat, never go to a dev shop, and this may be just me bashing the whole dev shop industry, but for me, when you go to a dev shop, they're going to say yes to everything. So you say, I got an idea for an app, and, we're going to walk puppies and kittens together and on demand, the Uber mixed with whatever for puppies and kittens. And all the dev shops are going to say yes, because that's what they're designed to do. They're not there to gatekeep your idea. So as Moon said, don't spend more than 3 months building your first iteration, your MVP. But before that, I strongly urge every founder, and I do this myself, spend the first 3 months validating your idea, building a mock-up, PowerPoint presentations, pitching it, and testing. Then you can go to a dev shop or someone like Moon and say, all right, so here is what our user base or our early testing as far as idea validation, customer discovery, this is data that we've got. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, Moon, but that all helps you actually do your job better if I've done that as a founder.
Absolutely. I mean, why would we want to build something that is not useful for someone else? And it is a very, valid thing that you just mentioned, Ed, because when it comes to, I would say, product validation or user validation, all you need to do, you don't even need to know Figma or PowerPoint or anything. Use pen and paper, draft something out, go to your ideal users and ask them, are you going to use this? And if they say no, then you probably need to think again whether or not you should pursue with it.
Sure. Not only that, depending on who you go to, some people are going to say yes. I've heard this many times. I'm probably sure you've experienced this as well. People come to me, founders, and they're upset because they said, when I first pitched this idea, I went to my family, my aunt, my cousin, even like my former boss, etc. And they all said, oh, yeah, absolutely. If you built this, I would use it. And when they build it and it's time to actually sign up, change some behavior, maybe put down some money, they're nowhere to be found. They hum and haw. And that is just so deflating. And people get upset and they blame almost the customer that they've talked to, the potential user. They say, this person told me all this and it was going to be great. And that's the reason I built this feature for them specifically. And now they won't buy. Well, that is not customer discovery. That's almost just feeding into confirmation bias. So the way you go about idea validation, you need to test a good, solid cross-section of potential users and get strangers talking to you, people who are going to give you straightforward, critical feedback. And if you can, I say, take a deposit, get a commitment up front and do these things so that you don't end up in the same situation. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think that, I mean, obviously before DigitSense, I have founded multiple things and all failed. So I learned from it in a very harsh way, but I guess it's the best lesson ever, really. You always need to. So, for example, right, I do know some unicorns and unicorn founders, and that founder specifically is actually running a minivan app. So basically logistics app. And that was basically started off around like 10, 15 years ago. All he did was draw all these like little sketches and took all the sketches to the drivers because the drivers are the main users of the app. And if they don't use it, they don't have traffic, they don't have revenue. Simple. So you need to find your target customers and you need to know your target customers to begin with, rather than asking your aunt or your uncle or your dad or mom, because they definitely will support you, or well, they will not because they don't understand. So yeah, that's just my suggestion to everyone.
Okay, great. So I appreciate that you've shared your background. You clearly have domain expertise. You are really a founder first, and then you moved on to help other founders, which is great. We're going to go through your deck here a little bit, and here's what's going to happen. I see these every day, all week long. I'm getting hit up with this type of stuff. So I'm going to grill Moon the same way that I would grill any dev shop or someone trying to sell me types of services. So we're going to look at this, and I'm going to look at, DigitSense here. About us, DigitSense helps companies create amazing digital products, focusing on user experience, scalability, user acquisition, from web and mobile app design development to digital marketing. We aim to create and market your product as a startup on its own. Okay, I like that. It's succinct. Great job. Okay, so I clearly know what we got going on. What is DigitSense? So you broke this down. Digit, utilization of data and numbers, and sense, stimulus of all sense human body. Marketing stuff. Okay, clever, etc. I'm moving on. Next, our services. Okay, you got all this. Web development, mobile app development, all the things that I can, look up and I'm going to expect. Okay, that's great. And then you've got a little experience, or you have more sharing. So you share more about all the different services that you have, and you're not saying anything, different than I'm going to encounter. Agile development lifecycle. Okay, this is where it gets a little different. I always appreciate when a dev shop or any service provider will show me their process. This is where you bring up the 3 months per product iteration and you go through agile development. So here's where I'd like to talk about it and break this down for a moment. So I hear everybody uses agile. Okay. And I know not all organizations that use agile are created equal. Like agile is one of these things, we talk about cargo culting in startups where it just became a fad and now everyone says, oh, we do agile. But I know for a fact, because I've been inside companies that have lost millions and millions of dollars or haven't hit their deadlines, and they say agile and they brought in the consultants and things like that. And my big issue is that Agile worked for some companies. They package it up. These other companies expect Agile to work inside their organization. Okay. And now this is where things are a little different because you're the one using Agile inside your organization. So tell me, what do you mean when you say Agile development lifecycle? And don't give me the standard, this is how we do it with the sprints and what have you. Give me the goods. Tell me how you've integrated it and how you make sure it works.
Sure, absolutely. I think, to be very honest, that sort of agile that we're mentioning is usually targeting bigger companies, so corporates who are spending millions of dollars building something that no one uses. I would say it's definitely, you're right, it's not for everyone. That's why there are things called waterfall and Scrum and whatever you call all these like buzzwords. But at the end of the day, I overlook everything, and agile for us, or to our clients mainly, is more of a higher level approach to business planning as well. So ultimately, I would say everything for us, instead of ignore all the words like sprint and like you said, the most important thing is that every single iteration or every single sprint or every single, I don't know, whatever you call as in like a 2 week cycle or a month cycle, is that you basically list out all the business objectives. So if these business objectives are not met, then whatever you're doing is wrong. And I would say because the product, whatever digital product or tech product, is to service human beings and to service people and users in general. And if these things are not done, then it doesn't matter how much money you put in, really.
Yeah, it's great. So I appreciate you giving us the lingo or explaining it to the founder who's not going to have experience in big companies. Let's break this down for a bit. Walk me through. Okay. So what I'm expecting now is if you show me this process, and I'm a savvy type person, and I'm going to advise all my founders do the same thing. You should be expecting the scope, your experience to follow the process. Don't let a dev shop tell you, oh, this is the process we use, and then not actually put it into execution. So I'm going to say, okay, 3 months per product iteration. You already discussed the reason we want to do that, because the tighter you can make these iterations, the leaner it is using lean start method, your build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, right? And we're going to start off here at business strategy and planning. Okay. So I enter in my world of organization development. This is called entry. And then we move into contracting, and then we go into this data gathering, analysis, feedback, and planning of what we're going to do. So business strategy and planning. Walk me through what that looks like. I'm a founder. I've got an idea for a consumer-facing app. What is business strategy and planning? How does that look like for me?
So I can summarize it into questions. This is what I usually ask all my clients. So first thing is, how do you make money from this? And second thing is, as a user, what do you expect to see? That's it. So everything else should work around these two core questions because, like I said, these are the drivers of your business. So anything else that you have planned, obviously, it's very useful for maybe operations or sales support and all that. But at the end of the day, if you're actually building an MVP, you need to focus on how to make your business survive to begin with. So I would say this is the first step.
Okay. I really like the fact you just scored some points, Moon. Okay. I like the fact that you said you're asking, how do you plan to make money? But let's break this down. I'm building an MVP. So I don't know how I'm going to end up making money. I just want to do an experiment on whether users are going to actually care enough. Do I have problem solution fit? Explain to me, why is that question important to ultimately still think about how I'm going to make money or my business model if I'm just standing up an experiment?
Well, I would say it's fine at that stage that you don't know because a lot of people won't know. But then the whole point of building an MVP is for you to know whether or not there's conversion, because conversion at the end of the day means money. So I think the whole point is, instead of a Figma or like a PowerPoint, putting an MVP together is allowing an interactivity with users and knowing whether or not the users will click on each button, whether or not how will they navigate through the entire thing, and then they will maybe sign up, Or at the end of the day, if you have a payment method, would they click into the payment method? I guess like these are all the things that you need to track to begin with.
Okay, what if I'm a founder and I come to you and you say, you two questions. How do you plan to make money eventually? Maybe not now. And what do you expect the user to experience? All right. And you detect that I've got the wrong thesis. Really, one of the things that I ask founders or I look for when I talk to them right up front, and I want every dev shop to, this is where it's great that you're a founder because you know what it's like sitting on my side of the table. I want everybody to ask, what is your thesis? Like, what are the assumptions that you're making? And that's where I'm going to change the conversation a little bit and how you make money, in the sense of asking, what are your assumptions that you believe will lead to users using your app and eventually paying money? Like, what assumptions do you have? Like, what's your general thesis? Because you have to start somewhere, which is, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? What's unique about your solution? So I want founders to break that down. But imagine a founder comes to you and says, all the right things and saying it, but you're like, yeah, it doesn't pass the sniff test. And you're a little worried that the founder doesn't know what they're talking about. What are you going to do then?
So I think it's a matter of integrity at that point. So sometimes, I mean, as a founder myself as well, I know how hard money, is being generated, and there's no free lunch, honestly. So I would always say, at the end of the day, as a dev shop, so the way that I run my own company is that if I don't believe it's going to work, or if I think that it's really flawed, I really don't want to take the deal, because at the end of the day, it brings me bad reputation. It's not my fault sometimes. I might have built a great product for my client, but my client doesn't know what they're doing. Then at the end of the day, they're going to come back to us and blame everything on us. So this is just, the way that I want to run my business.
I like it. Okay. I want to talk to you about your values in a moment, but let's continue to go through this because there's some interesting things in here. All right. So agile development life cycle, this is the process that we should expect right from the get-go. And the rest is pretty academic in terms of what we should be doing. 3-month iterations. I like it. Okay. Dedicated expertise to ensure quality and professionalism. Okay. You got talent pool. Tell me, how did you assemble your talent pool? Describe for me the people that are working for you.
Sure. I mean, currently we mostly have our developers in Indonesia, actually. So for those who are not within the Asian continent, it's very difficult to understand. So let me give you an example. So in Western Europe, especially, most people would outsource to Eastern Europe, like Poland, Ukraine, Latvia, and all that. Same in Asia. So I'm from Hong Kong. Developers and in general, salaries are very expensive. Living expenses way more expensive. Rent is more expensive than New York even. So it's basically insane to hire someone here. So first of all, there's no talent pool here. And second of all, the talent pool is usually the best, especially in, I would say, not first world countries mostly, and developing countries. Somewhere that is really growing really really quickly, because they actually skipped like sort of some steps in between, I don't know, industrial revolution and the finances, whatever, and then they hop straight into digital stuff. So it's just like in China, you don't see payments with credit cards. It there is, but it's not really a thing. They went into e-payment straight away. Even if you try and pay a beggar, they give you a QR code to pay them. So it's just the way how it works. So most of our developers are from Indonesia, like I said. It's the same in Asia. So usually in East Asia, like in Japan, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, these places, we always have our developers in, I would say more Southeast Asia or South Asia. So India, obviously very famous for it, and then in Indonesia, Vietnam, and all that. So I would say in terms of the stack as well, because we have a very huge focus on consumer web apps and mobile apps. So things need to be scalable. Things that need to be not clunky. We don't use languages like Python. Very rarely we do, but very rarely. So it's mostly JavaScript based. And I would say the more lighter languages and frameworks that we use.
Yeah. And how are you managing quality control? Like, what is the project management process like? Am I talking to you every day? Are you assigning someone to me that I have to talk to them and they are Indonesian? How does that work?
So funny enough, I mean, I don't speak Bahasa Indonesia. I don't speak any other languages apart from Chinese and English. So to me, the way that I hired my staff would be the same way as my client would view my staff, because if I don't understand their English, there is no way that we can work together. So most of my staff actually worked with global clients before, even before they joined DigitSense. So there is no barrier to communication, at least. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I would say the project management side. I invest highly in a lot of software, I would say platforms. So, I mean, Jira, all those things are just basics. But a lot of tracking tools as well, a lot of things that I need them to basically report on, or automatically generated reports. So I guess like this is the way that we can work remotely, and I think it's all thanks to COVID as well. There are a lot of these platforms available out there at a very cheap price. So
Okay,
yeah, that
great.
helps.
So I'm advising founders, and this is the reason I bring it up. You have to understand how the communication is going to flow. What are the communication dynamics? And then also, some things that founders don't appreciate are the power dynamics that are involved when you're using third world or developing countries and the talent pool there. All different types of dynamics. And I completely agree with you. This is what I really like. If you look at these other countries, here in the West, we kind of go through our, industrial revolution and technology revolution, like AI, automation, kind of step by step. There's a lot of iterations. But over in other parts of the world, they skipped the PC. They went straight to mobile phone. Right. So they're literally digital natives. They're used to growing up and hacking away with the technology that they're just born into. So I appreciate that look. And it's very cool because, I've lived in China for 2 years, watching the network effect and how fast things can go up. Just WeChat, right? Just the unified chat and all the payments going through there and all the apps being launched there. It's absolutely amazing, which is the reason you can go to scale much faster. But then there's also different types of competition, et cetera. So I get that. Then talk to me about what is the relationship between me as the founder and your organization? What should our partnership look like? Because that's what it is. I can't just, sit back and say, create me a unicorn. There you go. And then yell at you when you don't. And at the same time, you can't come to me and expect me to do everything all the time, et cetera. Like there's a reason that I'm outsourcing to you. So what does that partnership look like? What are your expectations on me and what should I expect of you?
Absolutely. So we're operating as a small team of 15, including myself. So I would say the communication always goes through me, and obviously there will be project managers as well. But I would say project managers would always be a more of a support role because, especially to founders and startups that we work with, I think it's a lot of hands-on mentoring as well. Just sharing of experience. I might not be right, but at least I've experienced a lot of failures, or I've seen a lot of people fail as well. And I guess I can give you some pointers on that. So I would say like this is the way that we currently operate. And I guess like that would add a lot of value to especially tech founders as well on building their own product. And I think the second thing is the software architecture that we build will be always be, our advice on that. But because we have worked with multiple clients, the difference between hiring a dev shop and hiring a CTO to build your own product is that the CTO is one person. And it's always best to put more brains together because there might be experience that other developers have been through and that have failed and that did not work, that they can suggest it to our clients. So this is kind of the dynamic. And as you mentioned, like what I expect from the founders as well is that I would say, I'm not sure, how it really works with different cultures. But so far, I mean, my clients in the West have been very open to suggestions because I would say if you come in with like a very set scope and you refuse to listen to any sort of suggestions, and you'd be like, I'm pretty sure it's going to work like that. Well, I mean, I respect that you have your own expertise as well, but then I guess there are some things that is mutual and that as a dev house, or you hired me, you pay me, to give you the best, not just to be the execution person. So I guess this is what I expect from my clients as well at the same time.
No, that's great. And I appreciate you putting out that expectation, because if you don't talk about all this up front, then it's just going to end up bad when you're already 2 months down the road. So that's not a good thing. And what we're discussing is really important, as far as I find a lot of founders are either shy, they're either shy and they don't want to ask the tough questions, or they're just bulls in china shops, literally, just going in and smashing through and just punching things through, like you just described, like just being very obstinate and rigid and stuck in their ways. And neither side is going to work. You're saying, I'm going to talk to you. Like, you're not the salesperson that comes in and says, oh, it's going to be great, we're going to build you the next unicorn app, and then disappear on the next sales deal. You're actually going to maintain relationship with me if I hire your shop. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, here's the other thing that I tell founders, and I tell my dev shops all the time. I expect to know where I stand every single day. I don't need a meeting with somebody every single day. I'm busy. We got other things, but I want to know right to the minute where I stand and know where my outlets are. And if I don't get communication, like if there's times where it's just I'm not seeing activity and what have you, that is hard for me, because that vacuum, I fill it with bad thoughts, like I'm getting ripped off and this is all going to go bad, and the market's turning on me, all those things. And I know for a fact that technology has really helped, because we use these project management software that lets me know there's activity going on. So I'm going to assume you're doing the same thing. You're transparent with all the different tasks that are being done, and a founder can see what is happening real time. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. But let's get into some fun stuff. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to blast through this a little bit. So I read through your portfolio. So you got luxury apparel stylist order web portal. So this is in New York. Okay. Great. And you've got the e-commerce command web app. This is Los Angeles. Great. Property viewing tool. Super cool. Great. This is in Hong Kong. Directional mobile app for visually impaired individuals. I know some founders who are working in that space, and this is Singapore. So you've got definitely international experience, which I really like. Web portal for global crypto giant Cointelegraph report terminal. All right. Well, if you're in crypto, you know what who Cointelegraph is, which is super cool. And that's the world. Okay. So experience in crypto, which is great. Company website for medtech startup. All right. MedTech, Shopify e-commerce website. Okay. That's a pretty standard, straightforward, standing up an e-commerce website. Aviation website design, development, technical SEO optimization. All right. So now you're getting into let's drive some traffic and all those things. Fit Sales fitness startup, UI, UX design. All right. Fitness. Okay. Kind of tired of fitness and, all that stuff, but I get it. Health tech, femtech ovulation prediction app. Okay. I got someone that I want to introduce you to, definitely for sure, with your experience here. And then predictive algorithm dashboard, smart HVAC efficiency prototype for French listed MNC. Great. Okay. And you've got more data in here. Fantastic. And then contact us. Okay. So I get it. You've got some good portfolio pieces, which is really important. So tell me, so I'm going to ask this in two parts. The first part is tell me your crown jewel, the one that you're most proud of, and then tell me one that didn't work as everybody expected and what you learned from it and how I'm going to benefit from that. So give me both.
Actually, funny enough, I would say the crown jewel is obviously Cointelegraph. I mean, like Ed said, if you are into crypto, they're basically the Bloomberg of finance, same thing. So I guess like it's a rather simple product, but obviously the brand name and all, it's very helpful as well. And also they scaled up really quickly, so we had to be very on top of everything at that in that project. I would say the one that I really don't like to mention, but they are basically our biggest client and they're still giving us a lot of deals, would be the very first one. So the New York client, the fashion company that we built the web portal for. I would say for us, we've done our best. That's why they're still working with us. But we actually work, like I said, we work mainly on the more consumer side of things, i.e. the front end, if you're a technical person. So front end and UI UX. So we built the web portal, but then we integrate it with an ERP system. And the ERP system was not done by us. And I think like for any sort of founders or people who came from a corporate background would know that having ERP systems is very clunky, very chunky. It's a terrible thing to deal with. It's just because every single company has a different operation system. So at that time point, I think when it's a very good example of our partner not understanding the business objectives and the business flow. So they're basically developers and they execute like whatever was mentioned by the client, but they never dare or they never care to understand what exactly was the whole process. Like, how do their operation team work? How do the people, as in like the users, use this portal? I think it's a lot of lack of business sense in some way, in some ways as well. So I guess like when you hire anyone like dev shop, huge IT companies, in-house developers, always find someone who care to understand how things are done on the business side before they hop onto developing things because it can go terribly wrong.
Yeah. Remember, everyone has to understand your business is a system. You need systems thinking. You need to treat it as a whole system. So you may build a solution for one part of the business, but that has a ripple effect, or it's like a spider web. You pull on one part of the spider web, everything else gets affected. So systems thinking is super important. Let's go back to some examples. Okay, Cointelegraph, yeah, impressive. That's great. You won the business. We know Cointelegraph, but they've already got millions of users and what have you. Okay, tell me a story about something that you built for a founder and went from 0 to 1, right? Like I don't have anything. I've just got an idea, a dream. Maybe I've done some customer validation. I got some budget, and you help them get to the point where, all right, now we're starting to experience traction. Tell me a story about that.
I have to be very honest with everyone. It's not within the DigitSense portfolio because I did that basically when I was starting off DigitSense, when I was pretty much like a consultant to begin with. So actually, funny enough, it was an e-commerce client that I worked with, but they sell a very funny thing, which is heat sensors. So what they use for is for car repairing and all that, very industrial things, very niche because they were basically selling on Amazon and all that. So I guess like at that point it was the founder was a very old, gentleman and is completely kind of illiterate with technology. So I guess it was very difficult for him to try and find new ways of selling things because he has been doing this trading for years, for decades actually. So I guess like it's from translating everything because the gentleman is actually from Hong Kong, so he doesn't really speak English, and we had to translate everything, not just linguistic translation, but then to an online platform, building everything, not just the platform itself. Obviously, e-commerce comes with a lot of, I would say, back-end processing as well. It comes with logistics, it comes with finance, it comes with invoicing, legal, regulatory stuff because they were exporting to the States back then. So I guess like this is just on the way how we help them with all the little steps because back then obviously I was finding other people to work on this job. I was finding my friends, I was finding other consulting developers or advisors to work on this. So yeah, I would say that this is still by far the proudest project that I've ever done.
Okay, yeah, and I get it. It's often those right in the beginning where you achieve something for the client and you've got the outcome that you were looking for and they were looking for. Yes, we always take those victories and they hold a special place in our heart. I get it. Totally get it. All right, rapid fire questions. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. First question, for the founder out there who doesn't think that they're going to hire you, they're not going to hire you. Okay. So you have a conversation for one reason or another, they're going to go somewhere else. What advice would you give them in picking another dev shop outside of DigitSense?
Sure. Well, I would say I'm a very honest salesman, actually. So if you want to go for someone else, it's your choice for sure. But at the end of the day, there is a reason why every single dev shop or every single company is different. The way that the founder or the CEO actually operates the company, the values that they impose on their employees, and the entire culture will change a lot of things. If you don't want to be heart sold on certain things by the salesman, come to us. I would say that's the simplest thing that I can imagine. And also, like, if you want someone who actually cares about your product and cares about your development and your business, your revenue and all, this is what we do. Because we mainly build products that is traffic heavy and also very like reliant on conversions as well.
So your advice is to say, if you're going to go to another dev shop and it's not DigiSense for one reason or another, go and find a company that cares about your entire business model. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Next question. What do you think about low code, no code? Founders that say, I'm going to go and do this myself, or I've got a dev shop that tells me they can do it for super cheap because, we use this low code platform, what have you. What are your thoughts on that part of the industry?
I would say they exist for a reason. I'm not going to demean any stacks or any technologies. But you have to understand how you want to scale your product in the future. So if your product is super simple, or let's say if you just need a website, that's all you need. That's fine. Go ahead with it. But then if you actually want to scale up your product and prevent yourself from building from scratch again to make sure that things are scalable, then don't go down that path. I would say it's a black hole. You might find yourself, doing everything over again after 6 months, and which is, not the most preferable thing.
Sure. I advise if you're going to go that route, kind of ditch it. Great if you're going to build an MVP just to see if something works and to test it out, but you have to plan to ditch it because you're absolutely right. Scalability, all that stuff doesn't scale. Okay. Last question. Vision. What's your vision for the entire product development industry? Where do you want to see things go?
So, I mean, it sounds a bit too far ahead, but I would want to see all the products being successful in their own ways. Because I think the beauty of this whole tech industry is that a lot of things are different, and it's innovation every single day. And I mean, there are definitely competitors out there, but I would always want to see things that are different in every single product or every single company, whether or not it's the way that you operate, whether or not it's the people that you target, or even just your product in itself. I would say this is the best case scenario that I'd like to see.
Okay. And you personally, what's your personal mission in all this? What's your purpose?
Sure. I would say, personally speaking, obviously, I do want to grow my company as big as possible, hire as many people as possible to help as many people as possible. But then I would say at the end of the day, it's really down to whether or not people are there to collaborate with us. First of all, and second of all, I think I do want to prevent people from walking down the wrong path, which I have multiple times. I started off my first company when I was like 20 years old, and every single month, every single week, I would start a new project, and obviously they all failed for years. And I guess every single time I learn a different lesson. It could be something wrong with my co-founder. It could be something wrong with the product. It could be something wrong with just the planning in itself. So I hope it doesn't really, I don't really want to see people walking down or doing the wrong thing, really. That's why I mentioned before was that I do want people to be open to communication, because if you're stubborn, it's very difficult to get there.
Get it. Totally get it. Well, Moon, this has been great. I can definitely say, yeah, I would recommend founders to at least have a conversation with you. I'm going to include your contact information and access to learn more about you. and we're on LinkedIn together. I appreciate this time, and I also appreciate that you've joined us at the startups.com community, and that you're willing to share your wisdom and all that good stuff. Last word to you. What would you want to say to everybody who's going to be watching this?
Well, come and find me. I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not you want to work with us, but just come and have a chat with me. I love chatting with founders. That's all.
That's great. Thanks very much, Moon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ed.